because I used the minutes for my note taking. So about a half hour ago, I sent out summary notes from yesterday's meeting. I know they're a little bit late, but
I did get them. Yes. I
oh,
did.
good. I got your email correct now, even though the old
Good.
one still pops up. Because I
Just delete that out of there.
so now I'm trying to get this thing off my screen that popped up. Geez, how do I get this off? Nuts.
So
All right, I got it off.
I just pulled up your summary notes,
Oh, okay.
Annalee, from that you sent out.
Well, I can see that when I did spell and grammar check, it didn't catch some stuff, those underlines. Yeah, and I don't know whether, again, I had asked you, Liam, in an email, whether or not, quote, these notes were official, because I haven't been asking the committee to correct them, but if they're, quote, going into the official record, we probably ought to do that. But they haven't had time maybe to read that for today.
Yeah, why don't we on the next agenda, I know that I saw the context of your email where we need to maybe give some time to get everything organized and caught up. How about on the next agenda, we have approval of minutes from the first 3 or 4 meetings?
That would be great.
Okay.
And it would be nice if people found things ahead of time, especially editorial changes, so that we could correct them and then for the meeting have them corrected.
Okay.
Because I don't even care if you add things in there, because include should have an S on it. YouTube, I don't know what's wrong with that. I think 2 spaces between it, something like that.
I think it's one
Oh,
word.
it's just a U and a capital U and capital T-U-B.
Oh, is it? Okay, because you can see how much I go to YouTube. Not at all.
You should, it's fun.
Well, I know my son said you could do that yourself if you'd go to YouTube and look it up.
You can watch yourself in these meetings.
He was thinking about directions and how to do things,
Oh,
how to set stuff up.
You can
So,
look up a number of things.
Liam, is there any council or public present?
No, I apologize. I'm
Okay.
just going to step out for one moment.
Okay. So did you 2 get the email from Betsy?
Yes.
Okay.
I did not get it. She must have not updated her.
Well, if she used my email,
Yeah,
then,
that she used.
so
She just wrote what she was talking about yesterday, right? What she wanted.
all right, what she sent is it's not a lot of language. She sent some language. So I'm going to ask Liam to forward it, or maybe Richard could. I think I accidentally deleted it after I printed it. So otherwise I would offer to send it. I went back to find it and I couldn't, but thank God I had printed it off. But we'll wait for Liam because we're going to do Article 6 first.
I have my phone right here, so if anybody wants, if you want to send it, Richard, if you can find it.
Do you have it handy, Liam? Not Liam, but Richard, Betsy's email?
Yep. It's on its way.
All right, thank you.
I apologize.
Not at all. Not at all.
That's no problem. I had 2 Zoom meetings going this morning, one on my computer and one on my iPad, with the volume down on both, trying to keep up. So, yeah, so there's no public, no council present. So the agenda said we would go through Article 6 first. It's pretty short, but if you have it in front of you, we'll start with 601.
All right.
I didn't see anything there, and I meant to look to see if I had comments from anybody. Because some people who kind of know me send me stuff, so I don't think there's anything. I started to look at that.
The only thing that I had was that Brian Longstreet? He's the assessor. I had mentioned to him if he thought the amount of, this would be under section 602, the amount of members of the Board of Assessment Review, 5, and then 2 alternate members was appropriate if the town was growing. And he said he could go either way on that. He said no more than 7 would be his suggestion. He said once you get too many people in the mix, then it kind of gets a little bit crazy. So I told him I would pass that on.
So I have absolutely zero experience with the Board of Assessment. I don't think I've ever even watched one of their meetings. So you have some familiarity with that, Alan?
Right. What it is you're not really, you're just reviewing what's been turned down. And you just look at what the rules are and what's already down as far as, hey, this person has to meet these criteria and able to make this change or whatever. And if they don't, then you vote no, or you vote yes, depending on, there's always some gray area. That's what Brian said. So
Did they have trouble?
cut
I'm
and
sorry.
dry.
Do they
It's
have trouble
fairly cut
getting
and-
attendance?
You mean as far as,
Of getting a full
Members?
contingency of 5 there?
well, it seems to me like there's always, on some of these boards, or many of them, there's always a first and second alternate. Because I'm not a voting member on it. So I get to sit there, listen, make comments, add things, and then,
As an alternate, you get to do that? What's your,
yes. And
Is
if
that what you
somebody's
are?
out, if
What's that?
somebody's out, then I would be able to then vote.
so Liam, do you attend those meetings? Do they have problems with attendance?
So yeah, I can make some comments as far as the Board of Assessment Review goes. So it is a board that currently has some vacancies. It is difficult. They meet on an as needed basis. So as Alan just alluded to, this would be for a property tax abatement. Again, they're questioning the value the assessor has assessed to their property. And essentially it's a hearing to either uphold or, change the value ascribed. So the assessor comes in and would sort of effectively make their case for why they've assessed the value at that. Whether it's, looking at sales data, whether it's looking at, other factors on commercial property that are relevant. And then it's up to the appellant to say, well, this is what my data suggests. I can't tell you when the last time they met was. Again, I can't imagine at this point that they're meeting more than a few times a year, if that. And the current assessor actually at one point sat on that board when they worked for a different municipality. So again, brings certainly the perspective of how that operation goes. So in terms of the question of increasing the membership, I guess my only point would be that it's difficult to fill that board as it is. I think that if you were to increase the board size from 5 to 7 and you kept the alternates as 2, I think it would just increase the number of vacancies that we have. So I haven't heard of any issue with or any concern with the composition to date. So based on that, if there's something to be said for if it isn't broke, then I guess that's my contribution to the conversation.
I think that was Brian's concern too, that, and it's not because the board isn't useful, it's very useful, and it needs to be there for anybody that feels they have a good argument.
And just one point of clarification, Alan, Nick, is it Nick Cloutier who you spoke with?
No, Brian Longstreet.
Brian Longstaff is our zoning
Longstaff.
administrator. Okay, yep.
Okay, sorry about
Nick
that.
Cloutier is our assessor.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Sorry about that.
So
Anyway,
increasing the numbers also, Alan, increases the quorum requirement. So if there's trouble getting members now, you might have trouble getting a quorum,
right.
I
That-
would think.
Remember in the full board, the full ad hoc charter review board, we kind of mentioned that we were going to look at numbers. That's the
Right.
only reason I asked him. And so I'd say he erred on the side of just staying at 5. and
Okay.
2.
You
They
good
do
with that,
meet each
Richard?
month. Yeah,
I'm with Liam. If it isn't broken, don't fix it.
yeah. They do meet each month. And I think one of the reasons that it's kind of he said sometimes it'll go from like 6 to 10 at night, depends. They try to make it from 6 to 8, but it can be long meetings. So that may
Alan,
be-
is it possible, is it possible we're just confusing our boards? The zoning board of appeals would be
Right.
okay, so zoning board of appeals is a different entity. And that's one that Brian Longstaff staffs. The board of assessment review, again, similar idea. The zoning board of appeals would be to take issue with a planning board decision or administrative decision. The board of assessment review would be the one that goes to the assessor, and that's the one that meets as needed.
All right,
Yep.
Liam,
Yep.
you're totally correct.
That's okay.
I shouldn't have even brought that up. I'm wasting time here.
No,
Sorry.
no, you're good. You're good.
So under section 603 is the decision of the Board of Assessment subject to review by the council, or does that go to court? Because it looks like the council does not have oversight over this group.
That's correct. I believe that's statutory. I
Okay,
believe that.
that's, yeah,
I believe that the when it's contested, when that decision is contested, I believe it goes right to Superior Court. Or it goes
so
right, yeah.
you see Leanne up on the screen. Leanne makes a point here that I've heard from other citizens when we did our last assessment I don't see that having anything to do with the charter, although maybe we could put it into the charter. But I thought that reevaluations are governed by state law.
She's mixing up assessments and appeals. And so her comment there doesn't apply.
It doesn't apply. Okay. And there was a earlier one from Mike about what, paying the board? Is that what he was talking about?
Yep.
Well, I think they tend to be, they aren't volunteer once you begin paying them, aren't they?
Yeah.
No, his comment is only that for other boards, we have specified salaries or payment.
Which
this
ones
one,
besides the school board and the town council?
That's all he's asking, and I'm fine with ignoring it.
Yeah, me too. All right.
Yeah.
I think there's the way big difference between the two.
Especially if they don't meet.
So it seems like we have no recommendations to make for Article 6.
No.
No.
Okay. So let's go to Betsy's email that she sent us, if we could, please. Which is 502.1. So she wants us to say,
When the council accepts the acceptance date.
so I'm not sure, it's too bad she's not on the call. I'm not sure how this solves her problem because the town council can put off accepting that report, couldn't they not, for as long as they wanted?
That's not her problem, right? Her problem is that under the current structure, once the town manager mentions the budget or does anything with respect to the budget, there is the concern that it triggers the 60-day approval process. That's her concern. And if we're in a situation like COVID, we don't get 60 days, maybe too short a time to do it. Or it may be that the town manager hasn't presented the full budget when he talks about the budget in the first instance. So all she wants to do is make sure that there is a start date to the clock that's in section 503.
Wasn't it already determined that when the, exactly when the, not exactly when the town manager turns in the budget, but it would be mostly common sense that even if the town manager just mentions something about the budget, that wouldn't be
I would
submitting the whole
exaggerate, you're
budget.
right. There's no formal time when that's done.
Right.
So,
It's
I mean,
just when you
can
get
imagine-
nitpickers.
Imagine them presenting, the budget in two separate meetings. One for the town, one for the school board.
Right.
You can do it in lots of ways. I mean, all she's trying to do is clarify this. I don't see any problem with what she's proposed here. If they never accept the budget, then we go to the default, which is the issue about the current or the proposed budget.
Right.
But all this does is it starts the clock. And I think if this is the current way everybody's doing it, and so it doesn't change anything, so.
I guess what I'm trying to read through here is I want to maintain that no later than 60 days, the council is going to vote on it. And then the manager can determine how far in advance of that. This, unless I'm misunderstanding, is that the manager can submit the budget and the council could sit on it as long as they wanted. And then it would shorten the public comment time, which some of our comments are concerned about. The 60 days are already compressed.
When's the requirement for the town manager to submit, how many days in advance of the end of the fiscal year is the town manager required to submit the budget? Do you
Well,
know?
that's what's being changed. I think now it's 60 days, but it
60.
looks like it's being changed a little bit, that he can submit it when he wants, and then the council votes and that begins to toll the time.
I mean, he could submit it, well, he has to submit it by 60 days prior to.
Prior to
Which
the
means the
beginning of the
town
year.
council has that time, only has that time frame as well then. Does that make sense?
So there are two different 60-day windows, which is why it sounds like it's.
That why,
So the manager has to submit a budget effectively by May 1st, right?
Okay.
And 60 days prior to the end of the fiscal year, the starting of the new fiscal year. And then the council has 60 days from when they receive it, or again, right now it says from the date of submission, and that's what Councillor Gleisteen is suggesting deserves clarification. So as it's been interpreted historically, when the town manager presents his budget, that's when I think the 60-day window has started for the council to go through the process of budget review and accept it. I think what we did last year, and what I think Councillor Gleisteen is suggesting, is we had a budget presentation, and then we had a first reading of the budget, which was the next meeting. And from the first reading is when that 60-day window started. So assuming that was at least a week apart, it was an additional week for the council to process the budget, understand it, and begin working through it.
and
So I
doesn't that
think
get you past the beginning of the fiscal year?
that could. I will say that looking at the budget calendar as it stands right now, the budget calendar for FY22 budget, so for this season, the budget presentation would be at the end of March. So again, closer to 90 days ahead of when that starts. And the first reading, and if we interpret that as the council's acceptance of the budget, would be April 7th. And so again, there'd be the better part of 80 days or so to work through that budget process.
And that's good. And that
Yeah,
does
that is good.
depend on the good faith of everybody involved. It isn't binding on anybody next year or the following year, for example, on neither the council or the manager to continue to do that. I think, isn't she trying to codify that a little better?
Yeah, she's just looking to, again, I don't think she's alone in this. I think that she's just looking to clarify what that start date of the 60 days is. And I think that she's suggesting that by doing this, by having an affirmative action of the council. So again, it's sort of this suggestion of it's not the manager's action, it's the council's action. So the council dictates that. Whereas otherwise, if the town manager submitted a budget to the council on January 1, theoretically, the charter would suggest that within 60 days, the council would need to approve that budget. Or again, we talked about different outcomes in the event they didn't. So I think it's looking to ascribe control or afford control to the council on when that clock starts.
That makes a lot of sense right there, Liam. Thank you.
Yeah, I just need to think that through a little bit more. To me, this isn't that all that clear. Because I just don't like the idea that the council could delay accepting and then it shortens the time period, because the public hearings don't usually begin till after they accept it. And so one of the complaints is some people, I don't agree, but some people believe 60 days is already too short.
Another way to maybe look at this too is, if the town manager has the ability to start that 60-day window, theoretically, the council would only have 60 days from when that budget was released to again, if the general public is the concern, really 60 days. Whereas, again, the council would have the ability to prolong that review period by either, delaying an acceptance. I do think one point, which again, perhaps appropriate to go back to Councillor Gleistein to clarify, or maybe for a larger discussion, but right now, as it stands, there's a budget presentation, and then there is a first reading of the budget. I don't believe that requires the council to accept it, but merely do a first reading the way they would for any other council action. Doesn't necessarily, again, it doesn't require support for that. It's simply a first reading. So clarifying that, because I think that is perhaps a change from what we're proposing to do this year and what we did last year. It didn't require affirmative votes by the council simply by being on the agenda for first reading.
So first reading and council acceptance are not interchangeable terms?
I guess that's the question I have. And I don't know what the intention is or if that's true or not.
Because she did talk about first reading and all of that. Hold on. I have to call you back, okay? Because I think, bye-bye.
When is the budget available for the public to look at it?
When it is presented to the council for review.
And it would be on the website?
Shortly thereafter, yep.
And how many times or how many meetings would the public be able to attend to make comment or?
Yeah, following first reading, it's then referred to the finance committee for the finance committee to work through the budget in more detail. Those meetings, again, it's usually 3, 4, 5. They meet weekly, sometimes more than weekly. But there's certainly a handful of meetings generally to go through both the municipal and school budgets in more detail.
Those are public meetings. They're meetings in the public. They're not public meetings. So the public doesn't participate in those. The finance committee does their thing, right?
But I would expect that there'd be an opportunity for the public to weigh in at every.
There is, okay.
Yeah, again, I can confirm that, Annalee, but that would be my expectation, that it's not a closed proceeding and there is.
Well, you know how the lawyers say it's a meeting in the public, not a public meeting. And so when push comes to shove, so been there, done that. Want to make sure that this is the public's money and they have maximum access to participate.
I guess, Liam, depending on the year, is it conceivable that does it give the town manager enough time, the time frame that you kind of work off of now, does it give him enough time, or her, if it's her, to come up with a budget in the amount of time so that town council can have 60 days to at least review it?
I don't think the 60-day timing, either submitting a budget 60 days prior to the first of the fiscal year, the end of the end of the current fiscal year, and the 60 days for the council to work through whenever they accept it. I don't think, again, last year I think was probably the most challenging year, and again, my
Right.
experience is limited, but last year with so much in flux, if you recall, March, April, May, I think it was more problematic. But again, outside of that normal year, it's happened for, Anna Lee can attest. I expect that this timeline's been in place for probably a few iterations of the charter. So
Yeah, it has. I'm wondering if, I haven't thought about this till this moment, but I'm wondering if one of the dates ought to be a date certain. So if 60 days is a good number, that on or before May 1st, X needs to happen. And then you don't need to worry about tolling the time, that you have specific dates in there. In this definition of what is an action and not an action.
If you do that, you're going to have to specify this fiscal year as a July 1st fiscal year, and that's not in the charter.
It isn't? I thought it was.
There is a fiscal year, but it's not in the charter, and it looks like it was rejected by the voters last time.
What was rejected by the voters, though?
I believe, and when I saw that history thing that Liam sent around, there was something about changing the fiscal year to July, not changing it, but specifying it as July 1 to July 30th. The fact that that's not in our current charter suggests to me that it was rejected
Oh, okay.
or not approved, not,
Right.
but right now our fiscal year is set by the town council. And I think
If
the
it's-
60 days is
yeah.
fine. Because
If the
people-
state runs off of the same fiscal year, then.
No, the state is October 1, I think, is their start
that's
of their
the federal.
fiscal year.
That's
Isn't
the
it?
federal.
the
Federal.
state is July 1.
Oh, that's the
If people-
feds. Never
if
mind.
people Can't add 60 days from the date of the fiscal year, then they shouldn't be commenting on the budget.
Right.
Come on, at some point, 60 days is pretty clear, and this doesn't require us then to set the fiscal. If we said May 1st, then it wouldn't work if we changed the fiscal year.
That's true.
It seems like we have two set of concerns here, the concern for the town council, which Betsy is bringing up. And then Anna Lee brings up a good point that the voters need time to look at it if they, if they have a chance to or want to weigh in. So,
I was looking back at the independent audit, which talks about some dates to see how all that relates. So the audit is due not later than December 30th, following the end of the municipal year. So there's the municipal year, which sounds like it's January through
January.
December. And then the fiscal year, which is July through June. Is that how it's done, Liam?
well, yes, the charter does speak to when the audit should be delivered to council, and does, suggest that by the end of December, or does reflect by the end of December, but that's to allow time for reconciliation and the audit to happen at the close of the fiscal year.
No, I understand that, but it
yeah.
has to be, that's a presumption that the fiscal year ends in June 30th, giving them 6 months to do an audit. I mean, because the December 30th wouldn't make sense if the fiscal year was changed to January to December by the council. If they had a right to do that, this would then give the auditors a full year to get that audit in. So that's why I'm a little puzzled. I may be complicating it, but by Richard's statement that the fiscal year isn't in here, it might be in here by the way other things are written in terms of time, when things have to be done. Because it refers to the town's year. The council shall present no later than December 30th, following the end of the municipal year of the subject audit. So I guess is a municipal year different than a fiscal year?
No, municipal year and fiscal year are interchangeable. So the
So
municipal
it's-
fiscal year ends June 30, and then the audit for that year, again, 6 months later.
So
roughly.
it's implied in section 2151 that the fiscal year is July 1.
No. No,
Under Liam's explanation, it is.
but it's December 30th following the end of the municipal year of the audit. So if, if you change the fiscal year to October to September, then it would be December 30th of that year. And
Correct.
if you change it to April to May or to March, then it would be December 30th.
But if they changed it to January through December,
It would be December 30th.
which would be impossible to do.
No, it would be the year would end December 31st, and you would have then till next December 30th to submit it.
I understand, but that historically has been a problem with the town of, that's right, this is in here because they weren't getting their audits in a timely manner. So this is based on the presumption of what you're saying. It's not written, but it was taking a long time to get those audits. So they want it within 6 months. That's the deal.
I mean, I'm just reading the language. I don't
Oh, I
know
understand.
what went into it. What went into it is that, you know, we've got it December 30th.
And I guess I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying by implication, the fiscal year is July, June, not by words. So I don't know. I'm uncomfortable with this right now, the way it's worded. And I think that the question that you asked, Liam, is a good one. So if it's no big deal, I mean, I guess.
The only concern I have is with the language. Accepted and approved are synonymous. And I don't like the idea that we're accepting something because people may think that it's an approval. And so maybe there's a better way of saying it. The town council shall determine by 4 votes to have received the budget, or to acknowledge the submission of the budget or something like that, so that it's not, you know, it's accepted as approved as opposed to accepted as received.
Yeah, that's a good point, Richard.
Yeah, so let me, right, because they're not approving it in that stage at all. You're
No,
right.
no, all they're doing is receiving it. And it probably makes sense. Well, no, that would be fine. I was going to say, if we just say, shall determine by 4 votes to have received the submission of the town manager's budget, then we don't need the change in section 503, right? Because that would then be 60 days from the submission. But
Yeah, then you just leave it. Yeah, I see what you're
but
saying.
it's okay as it is. I would just say, you know, that it just makes the council acceptance date, or, you know, it would be that the council's, you know, receiving date or something.
Right, because it does imply they're agreeing with the budget as opposed to starting the process, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there are two commonly used terms for
Yeah.
accept. You know,
So I think that's a good point. Let's just check back with Betsy. I want to just make sure where she's going with this, because I don't think theoretically there's, or philosophically, there's an agreement with what she's trying to do. I'm just worried that when I read those words, I feel confused by them. And if the purpose is to clear something up, and maybe I'm the only one confused, but I'd like to get more clarity from her on that, but first, did we get any other forms in at all, Liam, on anything to do with 1, 5, or 6?
Not any change from yesterday. So
Okay,
again, I'm not sure if there's, I think we discussed all of the.
everything we've gotten, we've discussed.
Yep.
Okay, so is there any, where's that agenda? Get my notes on it. So is there any other items to discuss for 1, 5, and 6 today? Because if not, I would like to recommend that we not meet next week to give a little bit of time to get these minutes together, and pick a date during the 22nd, if possible, to meet with the business being to review the minutes from all 4 of our subcommittee meetings to make sure they're accurate. Which would be one item. I'd like to have it worded broad enough to review any additional suggestions or whatever, review any other public comments from for sections 1, 5, and 6, maybe. So we make the proper public notice.
Yeah, that would give people more time to ask additional questions. Submit.
And a third item would be to, I'm going to try, I will have prepared by then that little chart they want prepared to review the accuracy of that. What are we calling that? The progression chart or whatever. Because I noticed only one subcommittee's submitted there so far to review that chart anyway. Liam, you can get the right name of it, that chart. And to see, and what I'd like to do is put together the final wording based upon all of the notes that we have to see if that meets everybody's agreement. And that will be out to you a week ahead of time, at least a week ahead of time, 4 or 5 days at least. Let me put it that way so that you aren't stuck with it 30 minutes before the meeting starts. Is that fair?
Sure. If you're
So
willing to-
let's pick a date. So February, I'm pretty open in the week of February 22nd. So you guys pick something that works.
I've got lots of flexibility as well.
So we have a night meeting on the 25th, the
Right.
regular full committee meeting.
How
Might
does
be nice
Tuesday
to get our
morning-
work done before then.
How does Tuesday morning at 10 work? Does that work? I think that
That-
was a good day for you, Alan.
Yeah, that works good for me.
Tuesday morning at 10 is great, perfect.
Okay. Well, okay.
So Tuesday morning, 10 o'clock, 23rd. 10 a.m. We'll just see if we can't finish up our recommendations so we're ready to go unless things get sent back down to us to review again.
So Annalee, would your expectation be that the agenda again would be about finalizing on the 22nd or 23rd rather, recommendations to the full committee for?
It'd be that, I think that's a goal I'd like, and maybe we just plan to do that and not just say we're going to meet an hour, but we'll meet enough time to get that done. That'd be ideal, wouldn't it? Wouldn't you guys like to finish it up if we could?
Definitely.
I'm a little hesitant to suggest that we would have a recommendation. Only because I don't want to, push us to resolve issues among the 3 of us, only to have them debated and then reversed at the full committee. What I'd rather do is to think in terms of if it's recommendations, it would be items for further consideration by the council.
Yeah,
As opposed to-
you put it better. Yeah, you put it better. Thanks.
So recommended items for further discussion, right?
Yeah.
By the committee, yes. Mhm. And then there's a few of those. We got this issue about what budget applies when they reject it. We have Betsy's language and we have the long-term planning budget issues. And that's pretty much it. I mean, there's not much in here, but
No,
those are 2 things and we want them to consider them going forward.
it's not major, and from the last time we discussed, we were going to get a definition. Liam didn't have time, but you were going to send us a list, I think, of the charitable donations that the town now makes, and to clarify with, I was going to get a clarification for us on whether in kind, like use of buildings or fields, constitutes a donation or not, which I did not have time to do.
Yeah, I did go back and look through the budget. The only, well, so there's a payment to other agencies line in the this was in the FY20 budget to Project Grace, which again is an in-town nonprofit. And then there is some limited funding under their general government provision for Scarborough Land Trust. Outside of that, I didn't see any other allocations for nonprofits or outside agencies or organizations. So again, might be helpful for the group that submitted that concern or that suggestion to maybe understand if certainly if I'm missing something or if there's something else that they were referencing or.
I'll send them an email and say, exactly what are you talking about? Are they going back a long way in history where they used to be a long list of them? And
I'll do some more. That was just me going through the last
Right.
budget, but I'll certainly check with some other folks.
well, it's not fair to ask you to look too, you haven't been here that long to historically talk about donations. It's not something I've paid attention to, so I couldn't be helpful to it at all.
Well, I mean, whether we've done it in the past or not, and how much we've given, I mean, it still is an option. And, under the current charter, the council could decide to give $500,000 to the American Red Cross. And we just, I think that's the fundamental issue. But
It
Annalee,
is.
you have a lot on your plate. Why don't I send a note to Susan Hamill and the folks who were copied on that email and asking them to clarify.
That's fine, sure.
And
I
I'll
will
do that.
put that down as
That's
your
so much.
to-do.
Yeah, you've got so much to do, and I can do that one quite straightforward.
So along with that, Annalee, is there anything that I can do other than look at what, just review everything that
Yeah.
we,
Just to review everything and get back
Okay.
to me if you can before the meeting so that we can clean up as much as we can
okay.
ahead of that.
I also will ask, I know we've had lots of discussion, and again, I've heard, I've gotten some answers, but I think just once and for all, I think that the fundamental questions that we need legal to respond to are the questions about, is it possible under any scenario for the council to obtain further oversight of a school budget? Again, I think statute suggests that that's not possible. But to confirm that, so there's no line item authority that we could grant the council by virtue of a charter change. And also this question about what happens if, right? So what happens if, I think it's very clear, if the council fails to accept or approve the manager's budget within 60 days, then the manager's budget is what prevails. But again, with a school referendum validation vote or school validation vote, in the event that doesn't, that's not approved by the voters beyond July 1 or prior to July 1, certainly that's pretty clear. You have a budget that's approved. After July 1, what happens? Is it the prior year's budget? Is it the budget as proposed and approved by the school committee or town council? I think clearing up those things, I think that's a legal question, and I will have answers for you for the next meeting.
So here's what I would request, if this is at all possible, that those questions you put forward on behalf of the committee to the attorney be copied to us also, and that his answer be copied back to us. Because I would feel a lot more comfortable, because there are all kinds of urban legends about persuading the town attorneys to change their initial opinion to reflect something different. And I think that to ease my mind, I would like him to copy all of us on his first answer.
Sure.
If you understand what I'm asking, because sometimes you get the answer based on the question you ask, as you well know.
Well, why don't I do this? Why don't I why don't I take the first stab at asking the question? I'll send it around to the committee, and you approve that that's the question we're asking, and then I'll have that forwarded to legal counsel, and then the response will be shared with the entire committee.
That'd be great.
Okay.
That would be appreciated very much.
Thank you, Liam.
Because who knows about, I've been around too long, but who knows about these urban legends, how true they are or not. And, frankly, some have come straight from former council members. And so I took them at their face value when they told me that thing. So Don't know if it's true.
They should be fairly straightforward answers.
They
I would-
are. It should be very straightforward.
I can work on that.
Okay, that'd be great. And Richard, if you would follow up with that group and then the rest, read all that stuff I've put together for accuracy and completeness.
Okay,
And it's not meant to cover the whole discussion. It's just highlights, okay? It's not minutes of he said, she said kind of thing. So that would be helpful.
Good.
And so we're all set for February 23rd at 10 a.m. to, we've got 4 items on the agenda, and you may have a category called other, just in case somebody decides to tune in. You'd think some of these people that have questions and a fuss would bother to show up, huh?
Okay,
So thank you all.
excellent.
Thank
Have,
you.
See
That
you
was great.
Thursday night,
Yes.
Yeah,
6:30.
All right.
all right, take care.
But has the, I haven't looked, has the agenda and the Zoom invite been sent out for that already? Is that what Tony sent out last week?
Yeah, I think it's already come out.
All right. I'll
We
go
may-
find it.
I may be sending out a new Zoom invite for tomorrow night. I know Tom was the host and he may be unable to attend. So
Oh, okay.
I'll communicate out to the entire committee in the event that's the case.
Oh, all right, that works. I've never been a host, so I don't know if you had to, who had to do the sending. I'm always receiving. So, all right, see you guys